guys, let's get acquainted. I'm Natalia Aramina. Today I want to tell you about a wild experiment that happened to me by chance, as usual. A strange thing happened to me as I was making rocks on the sea and wanted to add a new texture. I wanted to create an interior that's a little different from the usual paste or just acrylic with something. So I mixed acrylic, baking soda, and coconut flakes. I ran out of epoxy in one layer, and I made a layer with Hit Pro. You just can't imagine what happened. Hit Pro started to react with the baking soda that was mixed into the rocks. Bubbles formed around the rocks incredibly. You know how water beats off the rocks. You get foam, not the usual white foam that we're used to blowing up. Yes, it is foam of water. And today we're going to repeat this experiment together. I want to state right away that Hit Pro is a finishing coating. It protects against heat and scratches, and it's applied to a dried layer of resin. It's not painted and it's not used to make any effects, but we're going to experiment today. So today I have this board from Resin Pro, Resin, Naturally, Hit Pro, everything necessary for rocks, for brush preparation. Disposable tableware, protective mask, please. Safety is first and foremost. Please think about yourself, about your loved ones, about the fact that you are precious to your loved ones, and don't shorten your life. Right now, our main purpose of this streaming is to create a bottom, create rocks. So guys, I have a board, yes, so that I want to have caramel edges all over the surface of my board because I won't have a shore. I'll only have rocks in life and rock stones. To have a cool caramel edge, we need to take sandpaper. I took 2 fractions. Look here, one is P150 and one is P80. P80 is very coarse, but not suitable for sanding. But P150 is also not very good for sanding. Really, it's better to take a P300, but here, the P80 softens the corners, so there's going to be an unpleasant sound. We're smoothing out the corners so they're not so sharp. I'm taking a wet cloth and wiping everything with a wet cloth. Everything I'm cleaning up, all the dust that we created here. Next, the coolest, my favorite part, will be creating the bottom and rocks. I'm mixing from this mixture. By the way, I'll be creating rocks too. I'm mixing white. I always take different acrylic paint. This one is thick. I like it now, so I'm working on it now. Then some kind of champagne. Now I'm painting over along with the end because, like I said, I want my painting to go beyond. If you like clean edges, then seal them with tape, painter's tape. There's another, how is it correctly called? Tell me, this one is silver, this isn't construction. There's also a special tape for form work, but to use it to cover the paintings, in my opinion, is sacrilegious. So a painter's tape will work perfectly. But I won't be covering anything. I'll just clean the sides with a hairdryer and a utility knife. It's not a problem, and I always paint over the back side. I paint it over with spray paint or acrylic paint, so there's no need to worry, guys. I'm doing a second mix, throwing paint. I want to make a dirty sea wave. You know, like biological cells, DNA, yes, like these dividing. We sprinkle it with white, that is, right at the edge, tone it down, so that it's not so conspicuously active. There, it's very vivid, clear, like these jellyfish. Let's make different ones all over the canvas. I want the whales to go off into the depths. So now, using the same colors I have, a bit of black, I'm going to draw a large guy somewhere here. He's going to leave me, starting from the ridge. This will be The spine, it's like this. Also start with a not so bright color. If you're afraid of making a mistake with the proportions or dimensions, draw with a subdued color. So now, as the tube narrows into the tail is here, and you can't go wrong with the tail. The more you draw it, the more believable. Whales have a very large tail. Despite this little narrow part, a part of the spine section here, a tail section here, it should be disconnected. And so most whales, they're torn like that. So here you can just print it. Print thinly along the edge, just like you're putting dots. There. Now I'll take black and draw the ridge in black. I've got a brush filled with other paints. I'll draw them completely, even without blending on the palette. Just what's in the brush and draw them. Bit of advice with this bottle. Always remember, when you're painting, one side should be in the shade, the other side should be lightened. That is, the sun is shining from somewhere, and you should keep this in mind. Here we'll have one fin. Here I'm already starting to draw. You see something that goes into the depths. So here are the floodplains. So draw spots somewhere when you draw something three-dimensional. Always remember, when in order to see that this is a volume, we need to stroke it. That is, it should be like an arc. That is, this is a belly. And we should see that this is a belly, not a flat movement. That's exactly what it is. Yes, indeed, it's lighter. And there's even a white spot somewhere here. Here I'm heading straight for the light. I'll go. The fins are also light, you see. I'm not even cleaning the brush, neither sweeping nor soaking in water. First of all, I want, and in order for us to start working as much as possible now, and the acrylic has dried, I heat the studio very hard, and I'm not using water now to speed up drying. My acrylic dries faster. So from the mix we have in the puddle, which we made the substrate, added a little mustard yellow, and we make a tail. We lead the tail over here. We add some white, like this. So now we're drawing the baby's tail. I started with black right away. The tail here will be a little more complicated because the angle will be different. On all the previous and all the subsequent layers, that is, I'll have 3 more layers of C, in which I'll continue to draw the tails from above. So now for the underpainting, you can say, so now, look, let's go back to the big whale. I'll draw the ridge more clearly in black, With such an uneven, trembling brush, go over the fin from top to bottom. I say as if at a master class, as if you are painting with me with a brush. Yes, well, sorry, this is already a professional distortion. So a little bit on the fin. I need splashes. And I moistened it, and now I just beat the brush with my finger. I get such blots for kneading rocks. Here in my container, I have soda. This is the experiment I was talking about in the beginning, so I'll probably put baking soda at the end. Make soda at the end. White paint for the color of the rocks, such a light mustard, brownish pearlescent color. I'll add soda. Look, soda. Yes, I added more. Intentionally, to bring out a brighter effect, I'm going to mix it up, not too much, rather randomly, I should say, and I'll add a tad bit more water because I want the color scheme to not be too uniform. And just so you know, the texture of the stone remains preserved, which is a bonus. What we are creating today and making it look like stone, we can draw on it later. Now, about the stones, guys, proportion-wise stones, primarily we can't place stones near the whales. Yes, I'd like one to go right to the edge on its own, so I am applying it as unevenly as possible with a palette knife. Just like builders, I am laying out this mixture. And I am even going outside the boundaries of my larger panel, one rock. And you see, I'm deliberately striking it here and there with a palette knife because it will go under the epoxy, which will create a cool effect, and so on. We've made some, and I want some tiny ones, possibly really small ones here. They're floating somewhere between the rocks of the cliffs. Now I want to make some with smaller pebbles. So I'm going to mix Hit Pro, divide it. For coloring the sea waves and a little bit of white, literally about 10 grams of white, probably casting. So look, I made it oceanic, guys. Look, I mixed it oceanic, but if you see on camera, I didn't mix it completely to the end. If you know you're going to have another layer overlapping, and preferably two, then you can allow this error. Generally, if this is your last layer, then you can't do that. Why do I allow this error? Because I know that I'm going to have another layer, and I know I'm going to use a trick, and I'm going to use a non-diluted pigment in the resin. I'm going to drip it onto. Also cover the top with color because the pigment, as you know, it does not harden on its own in the resin. So now I distribute. So we take the pigment, the spatula, where the spatula is. We drip the pigment on the spatula where I wanted, and I made some algae. I'll add it over there. You can get closer. Well, this is where you distribute it. That's where you imagine that you have some depth, some kind of bottom effect, some color transitions. So now don't look at the fact that these are dirty spots, by the way. You can make more near the stones. Make sure that you get a cool foam. You need to make a dense, very dense white. Now I will mix the white well closer along the shore here. So you see, I'm not adding any special means. Now I blow the foam, guys. I blow the foam with a construction dryer. If you have a regular hairdryer, set it to warm up for 10 minutes so that it warms up a little earlier than you do. And at an angle of 45 degrees, blow the foam. This foam isn't particularly important to me now because we'll still draw the foam brighter in the next layer anyway, so I'm blowing this one up just for you. Now I'm going to spray it with silicone, and as soon as I tell them correctly, I'll rotate the camera. Again, be careful with this foam here in this mess I've made. Look, observe. See these bubbles? I bought silicone at a hardware store, the simplest kind in a can. It's referred to as silicone lubricant in an auto shop. That will work too, but the trick is you can't spray it directly onto the product like this. It'll be a mess. The next layer won't stick. It needs to be sprayed on some surface. I always prefer cardboard because it absorbs a bit and gives off a bit from above. We spray and direct where needed. But no, if you're only working on your product and that's it, you work, yeah, that's great. But if you still have other products in the room, silicone, although it sounds magical, silicone is such a thing. It will spread and scatter all over the room, and it will form craters for you, even if you don't need these craters. Look at the bubbles deep down. You won't get bubbles like these just from pouring. See how Hipro reacts to soda. Look, basically, the goal of the broadcast is to show you this. All right, guys, the work is dried up now. I'm on the second wave. There will be a third, but in principle, the second wave will do. So you can take a look at the results and decide for yourself if you want to proceed with a third wave or not. Look at your own sketches. If you want to darken something, add it in so we can create a C. I'll reiterate, we need the resin to get viscous. It's necessary to make the perfect C. You can make it medium or thick, but we always let the resin wait to get viscous. Now take a look at the area around the rocks. See how the glitter sparkles. Now I'm just creating foam with white pigment without adding silicone because I'm going to layer on top of this with aerosol silicone. Right now I'm just looking to create foam. It will dry and I'll layer on top of it. Again, another C. I'll tint it with aqua color and add a layer with aerosol silicone. Remember, for our cells to remain dense and beautiful, the resin needs to gain viscosity, else it will drift away. And look, see how lovely the ocean has turned out? Sometimes, it's important to know when to stop. Basically, what I'm saying is it's beautiful, but I'm letting it dry before I create another wave. So for the final wave, I want the whales to appear deeper by adding more color. So I'm going to darken this section and add more waves here. Let me tell you about my experiment. I ordered these magic drops, mega, from Resin Pro and used them. Cloyd Art, it's something incredibly cool. They create amazing effects, and I'll be conducting a live session tomorrow. I'll use these drops to create effects on the girl, and of course I added these drops to the white resin. They also create really cool foam, extraordinary cells. So if you see droplets like these, give it a try. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Now look, my resin is placed behind on a medium viscosity heater. If you know this will be your last layer and it won't be thick enough, it's better to use sandpaper and smooth your surface. But if you know you'll have a thick layer of resin, it'll cover it and won't be patchy. What does sanding do? Sanding provides better adhesion for the next layer. I always sand the resin before covering it with the next layer, but now I know I'm going to have a thick resin layer. I will directly apply the resin, which has gained the necessary viscosity, which is what we need to prepare. If you have a regular hair dryer, then turn it on and warm it up before starting. Turn it on for 10 minutes. If you have a construction dryer, you don't need it. It will give you the needed temperature. You need a silicone spray. If you don't have these droplets, you need any silicone spray. Any plastic mold, any sheet that you're going to throw silicone drops off of. You need pigment, white for the foam and for the dyeing if you need it. Now let's get started. So first, as I've already said, I want to darken this corner, so I'm dividing my resin for dyeing the sea and for dyeing white. I need 8 grams for white. You can even use 5. That is, I will not have a large strong foam here. Stir in transparent cups so that you can see how thoroughly you've mixed your resin. If you see some lint pigments, then stir again. I drip stained glass dye, maybe 7 drops, and that's good. Stir. If before we stirred through the sleeves, lowering the sleeves, yes, as the proverb goes, now we need to mix very carefully. Now literally here is 10 G and dye with 10. This open space here is essentially waves only due to how the whale moves and how the water converges on the rocks. So I won't have strong waves here. Well, like this. I'm going to move these to the edge. So now turn on the hair dryer, remove everything from the table that can fly away now, and at an angle of 45 degrees, with unhurried movements, push the resin. Look. At a distance of 50 centimeters, we look at where we need to direct our flow. Again, remember, if you have a fresh fill somewhere, remove it. The silicone will reach it. Puff in sharp, quick movements to where we need to go. I first want it here. Look, one movement, one thing. I directed it here. It even fell here right away. I'm showing you everything. Look, I'm putting a cardboard on this side. I'm going to use it to direct to this entire area. See what's happening? Now we are not breathing. We are leaving work.